In today's video, we're going to be testing the towing of our 6.7 liter Power Stroke against our 7.3 liter gas V8. Let's go hitch up to about 6,000 pounds and see how these trucks compare. First up is the 6.7 liter Power Stroke. Here's a look at what we are towing. The trailer weighs about 4,900 pounds. We've got some aluminum ramps in here, so a little bit of added weight there, maybe 60 pounds or so. And a powered wheelbarrow in here that weighs about 900 pounds total. Let's head to the fuel station, top off the truck so we can get an accurate MPG. So filling up the F450, this is probably going to be the hardest part of the test. One of the challenges of filling up this truck being that it's 48 gallons. A lot of times I just can't get the capacity out of the pump. It stops before it's full. It just is what it is. So we'll see. We're not totally on E, so maybe it'll actually be enough. But let's go ahead and get it, and we'll see how much this cost me. So we are full, but the pump stopped me at $150. Basically, we're full, but not going to be a super accurate MPG test. Unfortunately, I got to swipe it again and all kinds of stuff. So it's just, I'm trying, guys. But anyway, let's go ahead and get on the road. This makes me very happy. This is where this truck belongs, towing some weight. And that's exactly what we are doing. Now, as far as the MPG and all that, I did reset the computer down here. As you can see, we are averaging 6.4 miles to the gallon. We're only 0.5 in. Just pulling out of the fuel station was a challenge. Traffic is just insane. Traffic is just insane today. But we are nonetheless on our way. And yeah, I'm very happy. This truck just tows with the most amount of confidence. Now the 7.3 is still good, and the 7.3 will do great here. I mean, we're not running an insane amount of tongue weight or anything, so the 7.3 is going to be fine. But that, I think, so far the towing with the 7.3, that's where I start to feel the need for this truck still, is when just utilizing that trailer space means that the heaviest materials end up in the nose of the trailer if I want to take one vehicle. And I know the jobs that I do aren't that big, but if I just want to bring one vehicle, then I can use this and take care of a lot of stuff and put a lot of weight just stacked up in the nose of the trailer. So very useful setup. I know a lot of people say, well, you're not towing goosenecks and all that. Well, the 450 is also the highest conventional towing truck from Ford. The payload is less of a factor because the pin weight on this, the max pin weight is something like 2,500 pounds, 2,400 pounds or something like that. And then it's like 24,000 that you can pull on the hitch of the truck. So that's where I've been pretty happy. Now, right now we're starting to approach 11 to the gallon. This part of the drive is kind of tricky because the speed is relatively slow. It's like 35 miles per hour, the speed limit here, and there's pretty few stoplights, so the truck will be happy. Where this truck kind of struggles is when you stop, whenever you stop and then you take off, the fan clutch is just roaring in order for you to take off, particularly when the AC is running. So I don't know if there's something that I could do possibly to this truck to improve the way it behaves when I am sitting. Because when I'm sitting and this fan clutch kicks on, it just needs to roar so loud that it's gonna, depending on how long I'm sitting, it's gonna draw power, a significant amount of power. I don't know if I can add an auxiliary fan that just aids with this fan so it's not so far behind and the clutch doesn't need to run for so long. But man, it feels like it's drawing like 50 horsepower from the motor just when it kicks on. So that's one of the downsides. I'm actually getting better MPG right now than the truck usually gets normally because there's just no idle. So this truck, the stopping just wrecks his MPG. The fan clutch is hurting it. This engine and this gear combination, the 430 gears, this combination is just not the best for empty driving. I've gotten used to it, because I've had this for a minute. But when I got that 7.3, I realized how much better a gas engine is with a 430 gear. Now, once you're towing at least this amount, 4, 5, 6, this is 6,000 pounds. Once you're towing that amount of weight, the gearing's perfect then, because you have something up under you and it just takes off good. But when you're just driving empty, not the best. The first gear is just too low. It would be better if it started in second gear, even maybe even third gear. It's like when you drive a semi, you actually don't start that thing off in first gear. That's like your low gear. This thing, it starts off in a low gear with the 10 speed and all that. Your first is a little bit lower, and it just don't have. It's slower. The truck can't really accelerate that good compared to a normal geared 6.7, which would be like a 3.55 or 3.31. That thing's going to accelerate better because you don't need that mechanical advantage when you have that much torque, and furthermore, your power comes in at such a lower RPM that you just end up over revving the motor. It's just not good for just rapid acceleration from a stop, but it is pretty good for a good power pull from like 45 to 70 or anywhere like that, 25 to 50, 25 to 70, 25 to 80. It just has a good amount of power. But from a stop, you're just not in a power band of the engine to be unloaded. But when loaded, perfect. So like a guy that's saying, hey, I need a nice truck to hook up to consistently, then the 450 can be a good truck. But this 450 is kind of a weird truck. I think it's geared to RV owners, and in the RV community, it's becoming pretty apparent that this isn't really the best RV hauler. The gearing, the payload, all that, it runs out of payload before it can haul some of the biggest RVs. But it's geared the best, and it has the best axles, and it has the best commercial tires and all this stuff in order to make it for the best RV hauler. But really, a lot of people who tow RVs have found that the F350 is just a better truck to tow an RV because it has a lot more payload. You could get a 7.3 gas, which would be great, which would give you a lot more payload. And I think people with those RVs, they run into payload problems pretty quick because they're running those fifth wheel trailers with the sleepers right above the fifth wheel and all that stuff. So they eat their payload right up. Passing this intersection right here, this is where I got into that crazy accident. How crazy is it that I crashed right here? Look at all these people. They're standing on the corner. Like, I'm so happy that no one else got hit. But back to what I was saying, the F350 for an RV, it doesn't have the wide track front axle, but it has that added payload because they added some features to this truck, but then held it at 14,000 pounds and didn't really add any more payload. For whatever reason, they have to govern these pickup trucks to 14,000 pounds, or else I think they get into more regulations. Now, with that said, with it being said that this truck has a lower payload than an F350 and all that, I have gone over payload plenty of times with this truck, and it's honestly, it's not that hard to do. I think the payload on this truck is only like 4,800 pounds. So at 4,800 pounds, I'm able to quickly go over that. All I have to do is put a load of salt in here and put my plow on the truck, and I'm over. Now, that being said, when I go over payload on this truck, it doesn't feel like it. The truck just feels like it's happy. It's not squatting too much. It's squatting a little. The front end's not overwhelmed. It's not bottoming out or anything. It's fine. So as far as axles and stuff, I know this truck's derated. The springs are the same as an F350, basically. Maybe a little bit better, but very similar to an F350 dually. Now, the fact that when you go over, the truck's still very, 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 very stable is impressive, because when you go not even if you take a 250 and don't even go over, but you get close to the gross vehicle weight rating of 10,000, the truck starts feeling a lot more sketchy, and you're not even over the weight. And I mean, just like we can put 2,000 pounds of salt, and I've weighed the truck. Actually, I've weighed the 250 after getting loaded with salt and having to plow on it, getting the right amount of salt to keep it under that 10,000 pounds. I saw that the truck literally got the truck feels squirrely. It gets a little, you got to slow down a bit. Whereas this truck, I can go over to my gross vehicle weight rating and then tow a trailer, and it's just happy because it's a D-rated truck. Now the 350 dually as well is probably just as D-rated as the 450. The tires on the 450, I mean, really, the aluminum wheels that look Alcoa, they're not really Alcoa, but they look nice, and the wide track front axle and all that stuff. The wheels are just for looks. They're not really that much higher rated. You can get higher rated wheels or higher rated tires on these rims, and these rims are very heavy duty. They're very heavy rims. You can actually buy better, lighter weight wheels that probably save a little bit of fuel economy. The actual real Alcoa wheels are designed to be extremely light and still be extremely strong. And still be extremely strong, but you can get some really highly rated wheels and put them on this truck and be pretty good compared to, like, with the 350. You can still get some higher rated wheels on the 350, like even Wrangler Duratrax. I don't know if you'd be able to dual mount that tire though, but you can get some pretty high rated tires as far as tire ratings are concerned, like weight ratings. But ultimately you can buy higher rated tires on the 350 dually. You can buy the highest rated possible tires on the 350 or the 450 dually and get something that's rated much higher than what is on this truck. But this truck's tires, these Continentals, they're kind of like, if you were going off the numbers, they're still commercial tires. They're still 19.5s. They still have special mounting and all that in order to be on the rim. But the numbers on these tires, they're lower than the 17.5 trailer tires that are on this trailer right now. They have a lower rating than the tires on this trailer. So not the highest rated tire, the 17 or the 19.5 Continentals. They're kind of similar to like what a normal pickup truck tire would be as far as ratings are concerned. How do they to me, they drive fine, but a lot of people complain about the tires on the 450s. But anyway, I'm gonna continue this drive. We're getting 15 to the gallon right now. I'm gonna touch base once we get going a little bit longer. Okay, and we are driving in beautiful Harrison Township. Look at the leaves on the trees starting to change. It's my favorite time of the year, fall season, time to do some leaves. Gonna be a ton of that coming up soon, but right now we're getting 14 miles to the gallon. We are gonna go ahead and fill up the truck again for what it's worth and see how much fuel we burned. See you guys back at the gas station. So we are back at the fuel station. We drove 21 miles. It took me 51 minutes. I do this for you guys, but I got 12.2 miles to the gallon because the way back was just grid traffic. I tried to take the freeway back, but I ended up just hitting the freeway was closed, and I just had a ton of traffic. And again, that fan clutch on this truck is just insane. So let's go ahead and top it off with fuel for what it's worth. At least I'll know the truck will be full to the rim, which is hard to do with the limits placed on these pumps, but not going to be super accurate because it didn't click. But you know what? It's not super accurate anyway, because it always seems to be a little bit off. But anyway, let me fill this up, then I'll switch to trucks and we'll do this test with the 7.3. So 6.6 gallons used. The math comes out to 3 miles per gallon, so not super accurate because I would have had to really swipe the card again and top it off in it. The card swipers and the pumps freak out when I get fuel back to back, so we're gonna have to trust the computer on this one for the 12.1. It seems pretty accurate. Let's go ahead and switch trucks. 900 pounds on the tongue, the F350 hooked up, same trailer, back to back, same day, same weather conditions, everything alike. Let's go ahead and do the same run and see what kind of MPG we get. First, we'll fill up this truck with gasoline. Topped off with fuel, took 37 bucks. Let's go ahead and run this test and see what we get. So pulling out of the fuel station is a bit stressful. As you see, I am taking up some space here. Trailers blocking the lane, trucks blocking the lane, and it's stressful. It was stressful like this pulling the 450 out. Just a busy fuel station right here, but nonetheless we shall continue. As far as the MPG based on the computer, hopefully we'll get some pretty similar runs. If they feel different, I'll let you know. I probably won't be able to talk for the entire run as it takes like 45 minutes to make the drive, but we are putting in the effort for a good MPG test. So one thing I did notice filling up with fuel is this truck. Now there's a guy towing. Hold on. He's going to the limit. Filling up this truck. There we go. When I reset the computer, I looked at what it said. It said 11 miles to the gallon. Now that's interesting because at 11 miles to the gallon, this truck seems to just put up a better number as far as MPG is concerned compared to the 450 just normal driving. That's with whatever I'm doing with the truck, whatever, I don't know, whatever's going on. I don't know exactly the conditions. This did have a good highway run, but I'm working so much, neither one of the trucks really do much anyway. I mean, get the kids, whatever. Basically, this one's in storage, and I can switch out this or the 450, whatever. But it's interesting because one of the trucks is going to go. Either the 450 or my 250. If you follow the channel, you know we have a 2019 F250. So one's going to go. Right now, the diesel, and this test is going to tell us more, but the diesel isn't more efficient right now. It's more fuel to drive the diesel empty, and it's more fuel to, I don't know, maybe it's more fuel to, maybe it's more efficient. I do know on this easy part of the drive, that truck was getting 14 to the gallon while driving with the trailer, and I think this truck would probably get that empty. So I think, you know, maybe that truck's going to be more efficient. I think if it gets a clear shot or a clear road, it's more efficient. Where you get some stops, maybe not. Maybe it's kind of more equal while towing. So we'll see. I mean, the diesel is just expensive right now. So we are cruising right along here at a 1 mile in, 1.2 miles in. We're getting 6.5 miles to the gallon. So hooking up to this trailer, we got the same load back to back, diesel versus gas. And both of these trucks are geared the same. How convenient. They both are sporting in the 430 gear. The first thing I noticed hooking this up and getting rolling, I'm talking, we're going back to back, diesel to gas. First thing I noticed, peppy. This truck's peppier. And I noticed that too when I went from this truck to the 6.2, towing the, I think it was the dump trailer. I think we were towing a similar load, maybe without the extra 800 pounds. Peppier. The 6.2 to me felt a little peppier, but they were very close. I think the power delivery on these engines when it comes to RPM kind of dictates how the vehicle feels as far as its peppiness at certain speeds. We know that our diesel makes 1,050 foot-pounds of torque, but the way it's geared and the way that engine makes power, it may be better to have a different gear for the power. It doesn't feel as peppy as this. Both trucks are geared to 430, but most of that power with the 6.7 comes in at like a very low RPM. So it's interesting because, dare I say, that 6.7 has somewhat of a, I don't know, it's somewhat of a mismatch until the trailer is really, really, really heavy. Now, empty, this truck's probably quicker off the line and up to like 20, 25 miles an hour. Before the turbo kicks in, before traction and everything kicks in, until reality kicks in, then the 6.7 will pass. And at least in the form of the 450. Now, if it were a 350, if everything else was the same, minus the gearing, because you're not going to get a 430 gear with a 6.7, that truck would be significantly quicker than this one, I think. But you have a different gear. You have maybe a 355 or a 3.33, which would balance better with the low roll of that engine, the low end grunt. You know, it's almost like you miss out on that initial pull. Now, it does pull great. Don't get me wrong. The 6.7 pulls great. The suspension's better. I feel like the ride is a little better. You're a little more isolated with the luxury. It's a little, you're sitting a little higher because my seat, you can rise the seat all the way up in that. You can't even rise the seat at all in this truck. And having a seat that can go up and down is really nice. I mean, when you position yourself really high in the seat, you're higher up on the road, which is nice. But the power delivery with the 430 gearing is a little better for this loading that we're doing. Now, maybe if I max the trailer out, and I do want to do that if I get the time, I would like to max that trailer out and really see what the 450 is made of, because then you have your full tongue weight, maybe more. If you've got your 2000 on the hitch, this hitch on this truck, I don't even think goes to 2000. So there's a issue there. You can go over the pin weight, you know, you can go over the pin weight. And the thing about that is, if you go over these numbers, payload, pin weight, whatever, if something were to happen, that's when, you know, an accident, whatever, that's when you run into problems. Like, for example, the accident that I got in with the 450. You go over the pin weight, and that lady gets hurt, and it's like, dang, all that stuff can come into play. But when you got with the 450, I wasn't over any weight. I was legal. I was CDL, but I'm actually a CDL holder. But nothing was even questioned. It was like, nah. He had such a large truck and had a large trailer too, but it was never a question of was he within his ratings. It was like he's good. He's hauling some wood, and he's within his ratings. So there was no question there. But if that woman got hurt and they find me to be way outside of my ratings, in some way, then I could get some blame. I could get some blame on that accident. But wasn't the case. But nonetheless, first initial thoughts, just going literally back to back. I dropped the trailer. I hooked up the 7.3. I drove it. Peppier. Now, if I sat up here and put the pedal to the floor, probably not the case, but I'm usually not racing with the trailers. Anyway, could the 6.7 go faster if I were to put the pedal to the floor? Then absolutely it could. But we're 4 miles in. At this point with the 6.7, we were getting 14 to the gallon, maybe even 15 to the gallon. And in this truck with the 7.3, we're getting 9 miles to the gallon. So quite a bit less. But anyway, let's continue this test, and I'll touch base in a minute. Continuing the drive and just enjoying this scenery. Beautiful Harrison Township. Leaves are starting to change, and this truck is doing great. We are at 10.3 miles to the gallon, and yeah, cruising right along. So this is just a tough decision. How does this truck handle the weight? It handles it good right now. I mean, we're not pushing the limits, but I do know when the limits are pushed, doesn't do quite as well. As far as just the suspension, the power's there. The gearing and everything's good, in a good place. So even with our 16-foot trailer with the 7.3, I don't think we'll have any problems with power. Don't think. But I do have a little bit of issues with the suspension. I know with the 250, and for all intents and purposes, this 350 behaves just like the 250, maybe just marginally better. I do know with a couple of loads we had this year, when I was down to the one truck, struggled a little. I mean, just from a stability standpoint, the engine was okay. It's also geared to 430. The engine, though, and the trans and all that stuff, the temps, everything was okay. A little better with the 7.3, but everything was okay with that setup. But the suspension, you get on the highway, and when you're pushing it, you get on the highway and you just feel a little sway, a little sway. So I do know, going to this truck being my main truck, well, as for a daily driver, it's going to be better than the 450. It just will be. But for a work truck and the work that I'm doing, the way that I'm doing the work, it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle. I couldn't get into the situation where it just struggles. Now, I do believe that the truck can be beefed up to handle these weights a lot better. We can do the airbags, or we can do the add-a-leaves, and that would most certainly help. This truck does have a rear sway bar on it versus the 250 that does not have the rear sway bar, so maybe just that alone will make it more stable. The hitch on this truck is not highly rated enough for what I'm doing. I'll go over that quite a bit, but I could upgrade the hitch. I could just take a hitch off of like a 350 long bed. At least it will say the right number that I want it to be. Will it really be that number? No, but it would at least say that it's rated for 2,400 pounds or whatever the highest one is. I can even get one off of 450, just so it looks like it's rated for what I'm doing, but it won't ever be. So I can handle some of the stuff to make it kind of okay, but I also have to consider how much of a distraction that's going to be. Say if I just keep my 450, it's going to be more money out every month or whatever, but that truck, man, I tell you, I have to say it kind of sells work, just the way it looks. I mean, I went and sold the job the other day for like $700, just like bringing a lawn back to life, just aerating and seeding and fertilizing and all that, just bringing it back to life. Simple, super simple, but think about how much all that costs. You bring a core aerator to the job. I do own that, so I want to rent it, but still. And you bring what else do you bring? All the fertilizers, grass seed. So we're going to spread a little bit of topsoil, like a half a yard, to fill in some low spots. And it's like, that stuff ain't cheap. But for me to sell a job, just, hey, I'm going to make your lawn look a little better for like $700. It's a hard sell a little bit, but I tell you what, this guy come out and he sees the 450. He's not a car guy. This guy's not a car guy. I think he's a chef. The guy's a cook. He sees the 450 and goes, damn, that's a beautiful truck. I pull up at the daycare and the woman comes out, oh my goodness, that truck just sounds mean. A lady said this to me. That truck sounds mean. And it's like, it is a head turner. You put your company name on it, you park it on the street, you work, and I'm telling you guys, the amount of quotes, I'm getting quotes for stuff I don't even really do. Hey man, just can you repave everything? And like, I don't really do all that much stuff. The reason I got this truck, guys, I was at Ford and Ford was paying for it, and it wasn't really that expensive. It's just a diesel pickup. It's not as expensive as that 450's resale. They resell for more than you pay for them. The truck was a great buy. No matter, even if I sell it, it just works out to be a great buy because it's worth more than any other truck. It holds its value because it's a rare truck and people want that front end. They want that wide track turning radius. They want that mean look. The amount of people that called me just because they want to flip it, I don't even have to really even sell it at the full price. People want to pay me what I pay for the truck so they can flip the truck. It's pretty interesting. It is pretty interesting. So nonetheless, just the truck in general, just keeping it is like putting money in the bank almost, even though you're not. I mean, you're depreciating an asset, but it's not really depreciated, at least right now. I know it'll go down once the new model comes out and people can order that. Right now, you can't even order it. Once you can put that order in, whew, I need to hurry up and make a move with one of these trucks before you can even put that order in, or the wonderful government does anything else with interest rates. They're not. Our government right now is not good leadership at all. They're a little bit confused, but yeah, the 450, just the distraction of selling that truck is a huge distraction. Well, number one, it would depress me a little. You know, keeping this would actually depress me too, because I don't want it to get beat up. I love this truck's crispy. It's like a new pair of shoes. It's brand new in here. I love that little slot there where you can put items, which actually will be great for a work truck because people will put their stuff there. But keeping this will make me a little depressed because I don't want it to get torn up, banged up, you know, like the 250 has gotten. But selling that thing would kind of get me down. I don't know. I get over it pretty quick though, because this truck is really freaking nice. Even though it's an XL, I always wanted to kind of daily an XL. This truck's nice. It has a few small quirks, like you can't fit a coffee cup in here. Ford, please, why do you gotta have these weird quirks? You can't fit a coffee cup in this. And I'm not trying to fit a Biggie size fountain drink in there, just a coffee mug. But that can be fixed. I can get a different mug, I guess. A skinny mug, no problem. I just can't use my Michigan Mint mug. But whatever, I can get a new mug. This truck is wonderful. I really do like this. I really do enjoy it. It's a sweet build. One of the downsides is the Payload D-rate package. I wasn't intended on driving this. I was just switching it out. But I fell in love with it, guys. I really did. I'm gonna turn here. This is where I turned on the last drive. I fell in love with the truck, guys. I really did fall in love with this truck. I enjoy it. I really do. But yeah, I am happy with the power. We're currently getting 9.7. Let's go ahead and continue this drive. I'm gonna touch base. I know we all got stuff we got to do, and I don't want to make this too crazy long. So I'm gonna touch base with you guys once we get back to the fuel station. So let's go ahead and hit the fuel station. All right, so filling up with fuel, we've got 2.5 gallons of fuel. And what does our trip computer say? We got a total of 9.5 miles to the gallon for 22 miles. See you guys back at the house. So the fuel calculation for the F350 is 8.6 miles to the gallon, done by hand. Now, it's a tough situation. Which one do you trust? Longhand math, you top off the tank, you drive, you top off the tank again, or the distance to empty calculator provided by the Ford truck. It's a tough one because calculating it based on the pump would be the most accurate if we could assume that the fuel will slosh back up at the pump in a consistent manner. If it doesn't, then it wouldn't give us a totally accurate reading. It's like filling up a 5-gallon container with gasoline. You wouldn't trust that the actual clicking of the pump to be an accurate thing. Does it dispense an accurate amount of fuel? Yes, but you'd have to be able to fill it to a certain mark that we can't do because we do not have a clear fuel tank. So if we had a clear fuel tank and can fill it to a level and mark the tank itself, or a sight glass on the tank, then that would be accurate. So we're kind of left to trusting our trip computer on this. And plus, with it being a short test, if you were to burn a full 40 gallons of fuel or 30 gallons of fuel and do a really long test, say if you're going on a road trip and you actually are going through tanks of fuel, or you're going far away, then maybe the pump can be trusted a little bit more, just from the fact that the numbers are bigger. If you're burning 40 gallons and a small amount, the small difference of dispensed fuel will be less of an issue. Nonetheless, the DTE calculation is not 100% accurate either. So, with both trucks being stock, having stock wheels, relatively new tires, the rotating diameters on the tires are pretty much the same. I think the distance to empty calculator would be a good metric. Granted, it's a little bit off. Both trucks use the same metric. With that said, 12.1 miles to the gallon with the 12 point something, I can't remember exactly, but 12 to the gallon with the F450 diesel and 9 to the gallon. So based on those numbers, it's about on par with the added cost of diesel, being that the fuel is more money. Even though it's more efficient, it's more money, so it offsets the cost savings that you get. So unless diesel was cheaper. Now, with that being said, I do believe if this was all highway, the diesel's advantage would be much higher, being that it was city. There really wasn't any highway in our route, in our loop. Being that it was city, a lot of stop and go, the benefit of the diesel was kind of mitigated. Now, as far as feel and all that, they were pretty close. Like I said, when you got in that 7.3, it felt a little peppier. We're talking about a higher revving engine. We've got, not so much weight to where it's, lugging the engine at all or anything. But yeah, we're geared to 430. The 430 gearing favors a little bit more engine speed versus the F450, also geared to 430. But it's a lower revving engine, and it wasn't to the point where it needed all that extra torque or anything like that from the diesel. And honestly, as far as horsepower, these engines are pretty closely matched. I believe 475 horse on the 7.3 and something like that on the diesel. I don't remember the exact numbers on that, but it's around that same amount of horsepower, and you can kind of tell they felt very similar as far as the abilities, as far as the way it towed that specific amount of weight that we were towing. Very similar, and they are, as far as horsepower is concerned, very similar. Now, if we were heavy, maybe maxing out the trailer, then the 1,050 foot-pounds of torque on the power stroke would probably come into play. But anyway, this is DS Trucks. Comment below, tell me which one you guys think is better. But anyway, thank you for watching. My name's Sean. See you in the next video. Over and out.